Welcome on in, guys. Three Bold Takes. I'm Freddie, and I'm joined by Chase and Quinn here. After another exciting weekend of college football, it's time for our Week 8 overreactions. I cannot believe it's already heading into Week 9 of the college football season. 3 videos coming at you, 2 overreactions, and then 1 fun video. So stay tuned, fellas. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share to your friends.
All right, so for my overreaction, guys, it's time to get something off my chest. I've been watching this all season long. It in the NFL or college. We're a college show, so I'm going to stay focused on this. Analytics are becoming too big of a problem in the sport. My best example from the weekend, and don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for it because it allowed me to smoke on the Tennessee pack. Why on earth, when you're winning the game, do you go for the first one when you're was more agreed when it's 4th and inches on your side of the field? I call that aggressive, and if you want to do that, but it failed, right? So keep that in the back of your mind. It failed. And then in the second half, when there is a lot of momentum going in your opponent's direction, why do you go on 4th and 1 in your own territory? For years in college football, or in football in general, that was just considered stupid. And all of a sudden, in the last 5 years, analytics have said, no, it's not stupid, it's smart. And if you're playing a team, let's say we were playing, I don't know, an offensive juggernaut like Joe Burrow's LSU team, right? Maybe I get it there because your thought process is I need to keep scoring because they're going to keep scoring. But I'm now seeing teams do it in games that don't make no sense. Alabama's offense has not been some mega threat offense that you need to try to just keep scoring all game when you've got a lead. And it's not just the Tennessee game. We saw it in the USC and Utah game where they went for 2, didn't get it, then got another touchdown and went for 2 and ended up not getting it. And it got them to a position where they weren't up by 3. When they scored late, they were no longer up by 3. And so Utah's field goal won the game. If they would have just took extra points in both of those touchdowns, they would have had a 3-point lead, and Utah's field goal would have sent it to overtime, not the game, right? Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. We have seen Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss go for 4th down pretty much every time they have 4th down all season long, and it's just super shaky. I remember during the Tennessee game, I believe the statistic for Tennessee this year is 3 of 13 on 4th downs. Ohio State and Penn State, it didn't bite Ohio State in the butt, but they went for that 4th and goal that they didn't get. And it kept Tennessee hanging around, or it kept Penn State hanging around in a game that was so defensive, especially in that game. Why? You're playing the most defensive game of the weekend, in my opinion. I mean, obviously it's not. Mississippi State, Arkansas was 7-3, but as far as games that people cared about, this was a hardcore defensive game, the most defensive one of the weekend. Your points are at a premium in that game, and you're actively choosing not to take. And I'm just watching teams all season long who are hurting themselves from this analytics stuff. And I don't think analytics is bad. I'm not trying to get on here and be complete analytics are bad guy. I'm just saying there needs to be some kind of wrangling this in, because I feel like it's gotten way out of control. It's to the point that people just act like kickers and punters aren't part of the sport anymore in some cases. And there's a reason they exist. Field position, especially in a defensive game, is very important. And when you're going for it on 4th down at midfield and not getting it, your opponent's got to go 50, maybe 60 yards. You punt in that situation, they got to go 80, 90. In a high defensive game, I would much rather have to go 40 to 60 than 80 to 90. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I want to go ahead and hop in here because this is I want to bring up the James Franklin take, and that happened in the Ohio State Penn State game more than just Ohio State going for it on the goal line. I actually agree with that one personally, because that forces Penn State to go 99 yards, which they can't do. Either one of them really couldn't. But in the 4th quarter, Penn State is down 13-6. That is a 7-point ball game. And you are backed up on your own 40, I think it is. 4th and 1. You have not converted a single third down all game, much less a dadgum 4th down. And what does James Franklin do? He goes for it on 4th and 1, does not get it, and that leads to an Ohio State touchdown that made it 20-6. If you punt that football away and back them up into the 20, there was 6 minutes left in the game, and your defense holds them like they have all game long, guess what? You get another crack at it probably in the same position you're in right now, and you keep them from scoring.
Well, and then that score at the end of the game, you kick the extra point and it's out of the game.
Exactly. And, Chase, you brought this up. Dan Lanning lost the Oregon game doing the same bull crap, man. Like going for it on, 4th down and then going for 2 for no reason at all. Like that stuff does come back to bite you in the foot. And I know these coaches have these little sheets that say, certain percentage of this situation you do this. Baloney. I was watching the Eagles game last night, and I know that we're a college football channel, but I thought this was interesting. When the Eagles had the ball in the 4th quarter, I think there was like 9 minutes left in the game, 10 minutes left in the game, something. There was 4th and 1, and we all know that the Eagles like to do the Philly push or whatever. Like, they get it every time, right? Well, they put up a stat on the screen, and if they went for it on 4th down, they would have had an 84% chance to win the game. If they punted, then they would have only had a 71% chance to win the game. That's the epitome of the problem. Because if they don't get it, they were backed up in their own territory again. But the analytics tell you, because you get it more often than you don't when you're the Eagles, or, in this case, whether it's Tennessee or whether it's Oregon or whatever, it's a good call. No, it's not. Just because you get lucky a couple times does not make it a good call, period.
What does the analytics say on if you don't get it? Because my issue with that is it's not focus. It's only focusing on if you get it, this is what happens. Not what if you don't.
Yep.
And Freddie, go ahead, just clip it, just call this the Quinn rant, because that was absolutely electric to start the video. But the 2 things I really focus on when you're having to go and do something like a 4th down or a 4th and goal or whatever, and you take the field goal unit off the field, take the punting unit off the field, I'm looking at momentum and then atmosphere. How's the atmosphere here? Is it juiced up? Are they ready to go? And how's my momentum? If my offense hasn't done anything all day, why, when the analytics are telling me, hey, 4th and goal right here, you got to go, or not 4th and goal, but like 4th and inches at your own 30, why should I go for it here? That doesn't make sense. But if my team's rolling and we can put the nail in the coffin, put this other team away, okay, I'm going for it then. No matter what analytics say. That's kind of me, though. And I'm not a head coach, and I'm not a head coach for a reason. I'm also just an amateur podcast guy. So there's a reason I'm not doing those things, and those guys make millions of dollars doing it. But that's what I look at. I think analytics can be helpful, but overall, I think it is more detrimental because it is kind of costing guys games and jobs. Dan Lanning, you brought that one up perfectly. Dan Lanning screwed that game over for Washington. Oregon was the better team in that all the way through. Dan Lanning lost them that game. And that's why I still think Oregon is probably, it's like 1A, 1B with them in Washington. And then just other teams you guys brought up, Penn State, James Franklin, don't even get me started. James Franklin is just an idiot, just a straight idiot. And when you look at how he made his offense perform the other day, his offense wasn't bad. His coaching was, and everything that he decided to do in that game just was bad. And, analytics, I think, has been helpful, but I think analytics has now become a crutch for the entirety of college football. And I think at some point you have to rely more on raw, hard emotions and how your team is performing in a game over any kind of numbers. And trust in those your players on your field. Hey, has my offense been moving? Hey, has my defense been doing this? And like trusting that, because hey, my defense has been lights out all day and it's 3-0 right now. I'm going to let my offense go for it and run for it and try and put that momentum out there. And but if they're not, if your defense has been on their heels, your offense hasn't moved the ball any, there's no point. But an analytics is going to come through and say, hey, you should do it, right? And that's how you're going to lose your job. And that's why we're going to see a lot more of these coaches start being filtered out because they can't win a freaking game because they're focused more on their numbers than their actual coaching ability and then their actual talent in their players that they have.
And I want to mention this real quick, Quinn, before I let you wrap it up here. The excuse is that numbers don't lie, right? But the problem is, like you mentioned, numbers does not take into account a full game. They take into account one situation in a full game. And coaches nowadays also use it as a way to defend themselves. Like, hey, I didn't make the wrong choice here. The numbers said to go for it. So you need to figure out something with the numbers. And therefore, you don't get asked questions. I mean, I haven't seen many coaches get questioned about this recently because everybody knows it's the analytics. It's the numbers that say that. Now, in some situations, they do, like the very end of a football game. But in the first, second quarter, you don't really get questioned about that. So I think it's just a way for coaches to take the blame off of themselves when there is a stupid mistake. Used to, you go for it on 4th and 1 or 4th and goal and you don't get it. Guess what? Somebody's asking you about it after the game. Whether that's a reporter, whether that's athletic director, it doesn't matter who it is. Somebody's asking you about why you made that decision. Nowadays, people just understand it's because of this sheet of paper right here that tells me percentages and whatnot.
Right.
Well, the thing I hate about that, y'all touched on the crutch, and I'll wrap it up here. That is a suggestion. You're still the one choosing that action. And I don't think it should be allowed to just be excused because you chose something based on a sheet of paper that gave you some because it says 84%. There's still a 16% chance there. You know what I mean? Like that, it still exists. I'll wrap it up with this. You know what teams you don't see overly relying on analytics? Georgia, Alabama. I know I brought them up in my example just from this weekend, but Ohio State, Michigan, those teams don't overly rely on analytics. Who are the top teams of the sport last 3 years, 4 years?
Right.
Just
right.
something to that.
Yeah. 2 + 2 = 4 in that case. Thanks for watching. This has been 3 Bold Takes. I'm Freddie. I'm joined by Chase and Quinn. Hope you enjoyed and stick around. Share to your friends if you haven't already. And click the 2 videos that's on the screen. Obviously, YouTube thinks you'll like them, and so do we. So hopefully we'll see you next week. Peace.